Good afternoon, well, good evening, everybody. It's Mia with Sickle Cell Awareness 365, and I have Jennifer with me as well as some awesome hosts that we have for today's show as we celebrate World Sickle Cell Day, which is June 19th. Jennifer, how you doing over there?
Yes, I'm good. How are you doing today? I'm glad to be here once again. Too bad I'm not in the studio, but I'm glad to have guests with us to talk about World Sickle Cell Day, which so many people don't even know about.
Awesome. So I want to introduce my guests to you. We have Rabi from all the way from Nigeria, who's going to share some experiences from her perspective, and we have Kenny from United Kingdom. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
thank you.
thank you. So I really wanted to just start off by just kind of introducing you guys, having you guys introduce yourself to our audience and telling them who you are, a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there. So, Rabbi,
Let's start with Kenny.
okay.
Hi, my name's Kenny Kehinde. I'm from the UK. I have my own sickle cell organization called Sickle Can, basically where we help children, families, and parents affected by sickle cell disease. I also am in partnership with the National Health Service, which is called the NHS down here, where I work with hospitals in regards to recruiting more black blood donors for sickle cell patients in the UK. I also do like a lot of advocacy, basically, and I'm also a sickle cell patient myself. So I just felt as if, I was frustrated by the lack of services within the sickle cell community. So I thought, you know what, instead of me complaining, let me create my own organization that can actually reach out to the people that are not being reached at the moment in time. So here we are, 8 years later, and we're still going strong. And I just want to say thank you guys for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome, awesome.
Awesome. 8 years, that's a long time. That's awesome.
It is. Okay, and Rabbi?
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Rabi Maidunama from Abuja, Nigeria. I'm also a spiritual warrior, and I have growing up. Well, I think I had. I'm from a privileged home, but I still went through a lot coping with sickle cell. So along the way, I decided to I looked around me and there were so many sickle cell patients, and I now decided, okay, I think I should just help those who don't have access to free drugs or medical. And then I just started, and I lost my father along the way, and then I decided to immortalize his name, which is the name of the NGO, Maidunama Sickle Cell Foundation. It was registered in 2007. And then that's where we kicked off, and we started helping children, especially children, but this is all encompassing for those living with sickle cell, the less fortunate ones. So we started getting drugs for them and just giving out for free and all that. So of recent, I was actually made again the president for a larger body, which is called the Pan-African Sickle Cell Federation. This is going to look into other African countries that have issues with sickle cell as well. So basically, that's a summary of what I'm doing right now. Thank you for having me here.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being here. That's awesome, too.
It
Yeah.
is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think our story from living with sickle cell is what pushed us to do advocacy. And like Kenny said, we didn't see some of the resources that we needed when we needed them. So that's how our organizations were born. So Kenny, can you talk about you touched on a little bit of some of the resources that you provide. What do you feel was really lacking as you were growing up as a young man with sickle cell disease?
I think I was actually funny enough with my sickle cell. I didn't know I had sickle cell until I was like in my mid 20s, so
Oh,
probably
wow.
about 25 years old. That's when I was diagnosed with sickle cell, and I was living all the way up in Manchester, which is up north of the country. I moved back to London, and I just realised that there wasn't much, especially catered for young males with sickle cell disease. It was this awareness was normally female led. Females used to be able to, talk about sickle cell, even though it was very few of them. But I just thought as if, as a young black man, in this society? What is there for me in regards to support services? And I just felt as if we was told to be strong, just to, just to hold it in. There was no avenue for me to have my voice, for me to speak about having sickle cell. So I just thought, you know what? Let me just create this platform, because at the moment in time, there is nothing out there to cater for specifically for sickle cell and mental health in particular. So I just thought, I'm not a psychiatrist, but let me just put a platform so that we can share our stories. You could be a man, you could be a woman, but also let's just get more males with the condition to talk about sickle cell. And I just felt a lot, as much as I was sharing my stories, I got other men from different walks of life, from the UK, from Australia, from China, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Jamaica. They all reached out to me in regards to hearing my stories and emphasizing with it. And just thought, you know what, the fact that you talk meant that I can talk. Let's connect. And, and it just flew from there. I created my website, I created my platform, and then hospitals started reaching out to me. And it all stemmed from the point that I just felt as if the whole conversation is that it's more or less born of frustration. We're tired of what we can't get or what's not happening within the community, but I don't feel there's enough encouragement in regards to what we can do in regards to ourselves to make change, what we can do in regards to inspire other sickle cell warriors like ourselves to be like, you know what, let's empower ourselves. Fair enough, we understand that we do get very sick. We are frustrated by the lack of services, but what can we do within ourselves to improve our situation and improve it for the whole society in general? And as far as if, okay, what can I do basically to improve the situation and improve the sickle cell conversation? And that's what basically led me to this whole, where we are now. Because like I said before, I didn't expect it to be this big. I just started off with an Instagram page, sharing my stories, and it just blew up from there. And I just feel as if it's just the power of imagination. At the end of the day, we're always sometimes limited by saying that, you know what, we can't do certain things. We're just going to be angry and we're just going to complain. But I just feel as if, what can I do further than that? Because at the moment in time, I'm not the only sickle cell patient out here. There's other sickle cell patients, but what can we do to inspire change? And I just felt as if we just got to just imagine that we have the power to do whatever we want. And I just felt as if that was my philosophy to creating this, and I'm so glad that it turned out the way that it is at the moment in time.
I am too. What
Kenny,
about?
I'm sorry, Mia. I just wanted to ask real quick. When you first started your organization, did you find that like men just started kind of flocking to you, wanting to tell their stories, or was it like slow going?
It was a case where it was because I was one of the first, organization in the UK to just talk about sickle cell in general. And from a male's perspective, I was more or less the only male talking about it. So I just felt as if I just got like tons of inboxes. I got like 10 to 15. It started off with that, then it started like 50 to 100 per day. I just felt as if, wow, there is a major need for more men to talk about sickle cell. And I just feel as if it wasn't something that was the norm, especially for us to talk in a public space, on Instagram to get other people to react, comment. I just felt as if, this means that I am on the right path in regards to this movement, because it's not just me that was frustrated at the fact that, we weren't talking, we weren't exchanging stories, we weren't, it was a case where we just had to suffer in silence in the background to say, you know what, it's not manly to talk about having a condition that can potentially kill you. It's not manly to just talk about your struggles with a debilitating condition. So I think it was a case where we just shared experience and say, you know what, if he can talk, then why am I not talking? You get me?
Yeah.
Why is my silence? What is my silence doing for the sickle cell cause at this moment in time? And I just feel as if it just basically snowballed from there. As then other men started talking, other men started thinking, you know what, it's not about me being weak. It's about me not doing myself justice by being silent. And I just felt as if that was what made, got other men involved basically. And I'm glad it did. But before then, let's just say that it was a case where if you have sickle cell and if you're a man that has sickle cell disease, it was a case of just being silent, shut up, deal with your pain away from social media, away from any sort of thing, and just be there in the background. But I just felt as if we're tired of that now. At the end of the day, it's not just a condition that affects women, it affects us too. And this is our stories. And I was also made it a point to just say, let's share our good days as well as our bad days, because at the moment in time, 90% of sickle cell is shared with people in pain, people in hospital, people who was just a negative image of sickle cell. And I just felt as if, you know what, let's share the things that we can do if we take care of ourselves. It's not a case of, we're not going to have sickle cell crisis episode, but also let's also celebrate our strengths, our victories. And I think that was a conversation that just blew up to where it is at the moment in time.
That's absolutely awesome. I love that story. And I'm glad that it has gained the attention that it has gotten.
Yeah, because a
Um,
lot of times when we're doing like advocacy work, men are missing from the room. It's a lot of women, and it's hard to get men to like come out to certain things. So like to see you bringing men's stories out to the forefront, I think like it's way overdue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Rabi, let's talk about your organization and how you got started. You mentioned your father passing, and I'm really sorry to hear that. Was he a warrior, and did that kind of fuel your your urge to do this nonprofit that you have, or it was just from your own experiences of dealing with the disease?
Well, um, where I come from, sickle cell has there's a lot of stigma and discrimination with sickle cell. But then growing up with that kind of, I had a very loving home, and my parents didn't see anything wrong with me. In fact, I was my father's favorite child. So it was like he just wanted me to be well. So I was taken to now the best hospitals around the world. I was in England for a while. My pediatrician was in the Royal Free Hospital London. That's where I go for my routine checkups. So I started, the management was at a very early age, like when I was 2 years. That was when they started managing me in England, and I got a fantastic background of dealing with this problem. So, and then I had another warrior sister who, due to carelessness and the Nigerian hospitals, she died. And then that was the first blow. And then my father then died like 2 years after. And I'm like, okay, this is it. I have to do something about sickle cell. I mean, she had all the good care too and everything, but it was just a simple, careless mistake from one of the local hospitals here. And then she died just overnight. I think she had complication, the jaundice, but nobody knew that it was that bad. So I, on the other hand, was still nursing I had a bad hip and knee and all that, so I couldn't keep up with her own health, issues. I was trying to manage. I was recovering from surgeries then, and eventually, when that happened, and that was the motivation, I'm like, there's so many out there who can't even get help. I mean, I can access all the good hospital care and all that, and I have my drugs, my parents can afford it, and then there are lots of children out there who can't even afford these basic routine drugs like folic acid and multivitamins and all that. So, and imagine what they're going through. I mean, I have everything, but then I still go through a lot coping with sickle cell. And then I just imagine, okay, what about those that can't even afford all these drugs and all that? So, and then I started, and then he wasn't a warrior, he was just a carrier. And my mother is also a carrier. And that's it. So I just started, and I started buying with my funds. I started getting drugs for the less fortunate, just to put a smile and help them with it. So I started going to the local hospitals around me, and I just go into the hospital and say, do you have a sickle cell patient here? And they go like, yes. And ironically, most times I go into that, they can't afford the drugs. It's either they are waiting for, just a miracle in the hospital, or they're passing through one challenge or the other. And then I started paying bills as an individual from my because that's the whole idea. I had an inheritance that I wanted to immortalize and then put a smile on people's face. And then I was going bankrupt at the time, and my mom was like, "Will you just stop this? And how are you going to take care of yourself?" And I'm like, I think that I just love the fact that I'm helping people, and that's how I started. And then along the way, this is like from 2007. It's like how many years now? 12 years? 14? Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I started, and that's it. And then I started getting, little support from individuals in the community, from support from not government, not funding in that aspect, but people will go like, okay, I can volunteer my time, I can volunteer to give you a website, I can volunteer to do this, give you a hall so that you can have a program, and all that. And that's how I started seeking for partnerships from agencies and other organizations. And then we moved from here, from state to state, and that's how it grew. And then from the work I've done over time, that's how I became the so this is like, I'm the founder of this organization now. I know I was the president and founder for like 10 years. So for this, I now was diverted to the larger body because of the hard work and all that. I was now given this extra power to do with other organizations. It's new, Pan-African is new anyways, but then, so MASEF has had its own grounds as a new president. So I now, since I have a bigger body to go to, that's how I started, and that's where I am, because they have seen what we are doing, and that's why I was made a president for this new organization. So basically, that's how I started, and that's how it's going for now.
That's
I
amazing.
have a question for you, Rabi, because you mentioned the stigma. Is that something that people are still dealing with like today? Because that's something that I've heard of before, but I didn't know if that was something that people with sickle cell are still dealing with currently.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
Really?
Wow.
It's horrible here in Nigeria and Africa. It is so horrible, you would not believe it. I mean, parents now hide their children. I thought it was something that it was in the past. I mean, with all this advocacy and knowing that it's a medical condition, people still don't want to accept it. It's part of the ignorance we're dealing with here. And most people associate it with spiritual, cultural things, They give birth to children, and before the age of 5, the child is dead. And then so they have this myth about it that is kind of spiritual. Either has to do with the genes or the evil spirits. So that's why most of the cultures, the strong cultures here, give it another name. They refuse to accept that it's a medical condition. So this is what we're doing as organizations. We try to teach them that this is a medical condition. If you diagnose your child as an early stage, you can be able to manage that child, and the person will live a relatively normal life growing up with sickle cell. I mean, in Nigeria, we have somebody that, she just died, I think last year. She was 90 plus, because she had the support system, the love and all that. But when parents now begin to hide their children, they don't want to take them to the hospital, they rather treat at home or treat spiritually, then they develop complications, and most die before the age of 5. So it's something we're dealing with. But with this, and with a lot of people talking about sickle cell now, the stigma is reducing a bit. We're not there where we want to, but it's kind of where we hope that at some point it will stop. But it's really, really bad. And if a parent starts from the house, if a parent starts this discrimination or stigmatization from your household, now it extends to peer groups, it extends to schools, it extends to your workplace, it extends to your career, your relationship, and all that. So honestly, it's really bad. That's where we are now.
You answered my question, because I was definitely going to ask how is it now, because we've heard so many times how taboo it is and how people are so ashamed of the fact that they have
Yeah.
sickle cell. Even in America, there are people ashamed. I don't think it's not anywhere compared to there in Nigeria, but there are people here that are still ashamed to have that they have sickle cell, and it is
Just
rooted.
the shame here is a different reason because she said it's spiritual there.
Yeah,
So that's even deeper than just hiding it because you're embarrassed.
yeah, yeah.
They are
So
taken to churches for immediate deliverance. Like you have to, sickle cell has to be come out of that individual
But
at
that was
that.
the case.
So that's how bad it is. So and then they now claim that okay, he's healed or she is healed. Take him home. Don't ever go to the hospital. Just take him home.
no,
If you start going to the hospital, the sickness or whatever will continue and to become more complicated. So the parents now hide their children at home because the pastor
yeah.
or whatever has now decided that they have healed that person
That's
automatically.
so deep. That's like super deep.
How deep it is.
Kenny, do you guys deal with certain stereotypes or myths about sickle cell disease?
I
People who live
think
with sickle
when
cell?
it comes to the whole conversation about sickle cell, it's a situation where we need to be better at talking from a warrior's perspective. Because, like I said, I've come from a situation where I wasn't told that I had sickle cell disease because my families thought it would hold me back. Like, I'm Nigerian, I was born in Nigeria.
Wow.
I was brought here when I was 4 years old. So I didn't find out I had sickle cell until I was 25 years old. So it was a case of me speaking to my dad about it, and he was like, well, he kind of knew I had sickle cell, but didn't want to tell me because of the whole stigma attached to, and they didn't want it to be a shoulder for me to bear. And my situation was that, well, I wasn't on no medication, so it didn't prepare me for life. What if I had a major sickle cell crisis?
Hey,
I wasn't on blood transfusion. I wasn't on pain medication. I wasn't on anything to actually combat me having sickle cell. But he was like, you know what? He has faith in God that I'm like, okay, yeah, it's all good that you had faith, but I'm the one that's living with a condition that
Right.
at any moment, this can trigger me. So
Right.
I think now that I've made it clear that, you know what, it's not a case of me hiding
Yeah.
in the background with this condition. It's about me being a forefront to say, yes, I have sickle disease. X, Y, and Z can happen, but however, I'm ready to live in a healthy lifestyle because I take care of myself, because I exercise, because I drink lots of water, because I attend my hospital appointments, because I take my medication, and because I'm stress-free relatively. I'll say relatively stress-free. I still get stressed, but these are conversations I've not had because, when someone looks at someone with sickle cell, they look at me, they think that I don't have sickle cell because I'm not the typically.
you don't look like it.
And I'm like, you know what? It's not even sickle cell doesn't have one look. There's many people that have hidden disabilities out there. I just happen to be one type of sickle cell patient. But however, you don't know what's going on inside my body. You don't know the fact that, two days ago, I was clutching for air because I couldn't breathe, suffering from acute chest syndrome. You didn't know, 4 days ago that I was laying on my bed for 5 days because I was having sickle cell crisis in my hip and my back. So for my thing, it was just encourage the conversation. And we as sickle cell patients, we need to be at the forefront of sickle cell conversation. It can't be a case where people that don't have sickle cell are then that are speaking for us, but not just speaking for us, but speaking in a negative light, or adding the stigmas, adding this negative connotations of what a sickle cell patient is. So me, when I'm speaking, I make sure I correct people that I'm not a sickle cell sufferer. Okay, I'm a sickle cell warrior. You get me? It's not. There's no way you can spin this negatively because this is my life, and this is the fact that we need to change the perception of sickle cell disease. Because, for example, I've got a young daughter that has sickle cell as well. The mother of my children, she has sickle cell trait. We found that out when she was pregnant. But however, I made sure that when she's in school, she talks about sickle cell to a student, to her friends, to her teacher. She's on the impression that she's not ashamed of her having sickle cell. It's a case where she's coming from a place where she can educate people. And I think we need to bring that conversation where we control the narrative. We make sure that it's not often a negative narrative about sickle cell. It's not a narrative where we then basically own a negative stigmas and then we attach it to ourselves. It's a case where we break that cycle. That was our parents' generation. Where now our own generation, what we need to set examples for sickle cell patients that are younger than us, the next generation. So I just feel as if let's now advocate the conversation, at least talk about sickle cell, share experiences, and then just break these taboos in regards to, sickle cell. We don't talk about sickle cell. It's a subject that is, makes us feel uneasy.
Yeah.
Eliminate that. The only way that we can move forward is by having these constant conversations in the main society, and just say, you know what, this is it. This is what it is. How can we tackle certain issues with sickle cell if we don't talk about how it affects the people that are affected by sickle cell? And for me, I think we still got a long way to go when it comes to awareness and perception of sickle cell. But I will say it has changed since our parents' generation.
Yeah.
I'm only talking from the UK perspective anyway, but I'll say that it has come ahead. Let's just say within the last 10 years, it's come leaps and bounds. Sickle cell's in the media now. People are talking about blood donation in the UK for sickle cell patients. So it has come leaps and bounds, but there's still a long way to go when it comes to having that full conversation about sickle cell.
Yeah.
So Kenny, you said you weren't diagnosed till you were in your 20s. So I'm curious, like, did you never have a crisis until you were in your 20s, or you just didn't know what it was before then?
My thing is that I'm not really, I don't really have many hospitalized crisis episodes. My issue is that it's more or less fatigue and chest and stomach pain, basically. Okay. So my thing was that I always thought that I was either lazy, that I need to overdo it in the gym. That, there'll be times where I couldn't wake up for school, in the mornings, and my mom would shout at me, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So it would be a case of either I would overcompensate it by doing more exercise, which would make me even more sick. Right. So it was a case of me thinking that I had a fitness issue. That's what I thought it was, that I wasn't fit. I need to go to the gym. I need to lift more weights. I need to run more. I need to do this. So it was a case of me always catching up myself and then making myself sick and then repeating the same cycle up until I turned 25. That's when I realized that, it's not a case where I was trying to catch up to people. I didn't have to overcompensate in the gym where I had to try and lift heavier than the next person. I had to run further than the next person on a treadmill. It was a case of you have a condition that you need to adjust to. Okay, it's not the fact that you are physically weaker, it's the fact that you was born with a condition and you need to adapt your life to cater for the condition. But I will say that there were times when I was younger where, I would black out when it comes to PE, exercise, and I'll wake up and I'm like, what's happened? Or I feel out of shape, or out of breath. So looking back now, yes, there were incidents where I could say that these were moderate or mild sickle cell crisis episodes. But it wasn't until, that one episode when I was in university where I woke up and it was like as if my stomach was being stabbed so many different times. Okay. I couldn't move. It was like, what is going on here? I was like, what? It's like I woke up on glass, basically. And then when I found out when I went to the hospital, I didn't know much about sickle cell. So I'm like, what is sickle cell disease? What is this? Yeah. And so it took me finding out about it to realize, oh, wow, this is a serious thing if I don't take care of myself. So I had to educate myself in regards to from when I found out about sickle cell. So I would say that was about 10, 12 years ago when I found out. But I would say now it's more than less likely that you're going to be an adult and you don't know that you have sickle cell because they have screenings. When you're born. Like my daughter, when she was born, they found out straight away that she has sickle disease. So it was a case where, because I moved from Nigeria, my medical records wasn't really, they didn't know nothing much about me. That's why I wasn't advised. My parents, we still have conversations now, like, why didn't you tell me that sickle cell, what is this? But I would say in the UK at the moment in time, there is more awareness when it comes to sickle cell. Yeah. But however, there's still that portion. And I would say that most of the stigma actually comes from our own communities. It doesn't come from outside.
Right.
So white, Asian people, they don't really, it's not a case where they stigmatize about sickle cell. They may be a bit ignorant to how it affects us, but I would say most of the stigma comes from our own communities. Yeah. And I feel that's something that we need to break the cycle of and then challenge people and then educate people moving on forward.
So let me ask you, that's a good segue. I want to pose this question to the both of you. How is healthcare where you guys are? Like, it could be better here. It could be a lot better. And we do get stigmatization from the medical profession. Of course, not all of them, but we do deal with the people here, the doctors, nurses who either see that we have sickle cell or just see that we're black, and it just spirals into something else. So how is healthcare where you guys are?
Should I go first?
Well,
Go ahead.
where horrible. First time is it's not a good experience having good medical care here. Sometimes when you walk into the hospital, they don't attend to you like they're supposed to. And imagine having a serious crisis that might require pain meds immediately, and then you walk into the hospital and they're just there, making you wait or join a queue or whatever it is, And secondly, aside the time wasting, secondly, there's issue of people that know about sickle cell already and the pain meds now tag you as drug addict. So that's another aspect on its own, so which is terrible, because sometimes they don't even attend to you like they're supposed to, and they're just addicts and they just want something for the pain. So any other thing aside that, whether you have an infection, whether you have a fever, whether you're dehydrated, it's not their problem at that time.
Is that in Nigeria that you're talking
first
about?
tagging, yes, first tagging is you're an addict, so all other things will have to wait. So, and then the lack of knowledge of how to, there's no patient-doctor relationship or patient-nurse relationship. The doctor feels he knows everything. This is what the book has told him. This is what he has read from the book. And you, as a patient, have to listen to him and abide by his own rules, right? That's a different problem on its own. So, imagine having all this at a time in a hospital. That's like rubbish. Right. So for me, I have had instances when I wasn't in England, I was in Nigeria, and then I had a bad crisis, and then I had to now go into hospital for emergency surgeries or whatever, because my father knew that they didn't have this whatever it is, the system wasn't fit enough to give me the services I want. So he never used to allow me going to the hospital, very sick, these Nigerian hospitals. So, and of course, he knew what he was saying, because at a point, there was a time I was almost paralyzed just from carelessness. There was a time that I had surgery, and then the doctors had to come out and then ask my mom to give them money to go and buy gloves, because they forgot to open part of my leg on the surgery table. So you can imagine what I have been through in Nigeria, So it's just, I have had a terrible experience, really. As I'm talking to you now, my sister is a pharmacist, right? And then I have one or two doctor friends that I know, that I trust. But to be honest, I don't have a favorite hospital. I don't have a favorite anywhere I want to go to when I'm having crisis. So my sister manages me at home now with all the payments, because she's a qualified pharmacist. So she doesn't even let me go to the hospital. Whatever it is, we call the nurse at home. We have an in-call doctor. He comes home, and then that's it. That's how bad my experience was, that at this time, I'm praying that nothing serious takes me into these hospital settings. Yeah. So because of our advocacy now, we're actually challenging the doctors and the nurses and all that. If they don't know the right thing to do, we are now addressing the issue. This is how you treat a sickle cell patient, and not all of us are addicts. So that's basically how it is now. So some doctors are willing to learn. Some, like at a time when I went to England for surgery and I came back, a couple of nurses came and asked and told me, what is it that we do wrong here? Can you let us know what the difference between the hospitals over there, how they treat you and us here? You know, those are people that really wanted to learn and make a change in their own system. But not everyone does that. So lack of patient and doctor relationship is one of the problems we have there. A doctor feels he knows everything just by reading in the book. And which is impossible. He needs to have a relationship with you so that, you know, experience, they said, is the best teacher. So I hope that some of them will learn, most of them will learn, but they are getting there. With advocacy, we're actually getting where we want in the healthcare system.
That sounds very familiar. What about you, Kenny?
Right.
I will say in the UK, we're very fortunate because our healthcare is free. So basically, we have free healthcare. And when it comes to sickle cell, I have all my medication that's free anyway. So all my surgery and everything is free. But I would say that in regards to the whole way that we're treated, it's better than it was 10 years ago. I remember when I was, one of my first episodes when I was in hospital was a case where the doctors just walked past me when I was having a sickle cell crisis episode. But now it's a case where the doctors, they know better. Sickle cell's highlighted in the media more. So there's more of a case of doctors and hospitals getting sued now if they don't treat patients better. But I will say there are still instances where patients are not being treated to the best of their capabilities due to lack of knowledge and ignorance when it comes to treating patients with sickle disease. Like we had 2 cases in the news recently of 2 male sickle cell patients, one that died and one that I think was highlighted in the media because he went missing. Because he was tired of being inside due to the lockdown conditions. So he went outside and it was a case where it just turned really bad for him. But I would say in regards to the healthcare situation, we're fortunate in the fact that we do have free healthcare. But however, when it translates to treatment, even though it's better than it was before, there's still room for improvement. And that's what I would say in regards to the NHS. And I will say that even though I do work for the NHS, there are still incidents where they still need to improve when it comes to their patient-doctor relationships, how they, the fact that they, sometimes they label sickle cell patients as drug seekers. It's a case of, them slowly understanding the level of pain that sickle cell patients go through. Like, for example, I did a advocacy group with certain doctors where I described my pain as in, it's like of a gunshot wound. Basically, that's the level of pain comparison. Like the same medication that person is being shot and stabbed at the same level of medication that I take for sickle cell crisis episodes. So for them to imagine that and think, you know what, wow, this is crazy. Let's now change the method of approach to how we deal with sickle cell patients. That's why I say it's up to us to change the narrative. It's not a case of us being angry about certain things. It's about coming together for common good. If you can help your hospital to actually know the true facts about sickle cell by telling your own testimonies, which I have, for them to understand the level of pain that we're in, then it can only be good for sickle cell moving forward. And that's why I keep saying your voice is powerful. Every single patient's voice is powerful. And I can understand that it is discouraging when, 1, we're not believed, 2, they can't understand the level of pain that we're in. But what we can do is speak up, and hopefully our voices would then make people understand.
Right.
So I have a question. If I were to travel to where you guys live, what tips would you give me? Like if I had a crisis, in the UK or in Nigeria?
I would say, I'll go first. In the UK, I would say make sure the first sign, call hospital. Definitely, because it's a case where they will deal with you swiftly and accordingly. It's not a case of where America, you got to show your hospital card or you got to show your insurance card. It's a case of once you get admitted in hospital, they have to deal with you regardless. It's not a case where you have to worry about, how much it's going to cost me back, how much it's going to send me. You don't have to worry about no money issues. But however, there's also the other issue of not having your what's it called when itinerary. When you're in hospital, there's got certain protocols.
Yeah.
Make sure you have your protocol at hand, what they need to give you, what drugs that you take, whether you need air, gas, the procedure that you do when you go into hospital. Make sure you have that to hand so that you can let the doctors know. Because I keep telling doctors that not all sickle cell patients are the same. For example, I'm allergic to morphine. So I can't take morphine at large amounts because I either scratch or I end up being sick.
Yeah.
So they give me an alternative drug. So make sure you have your procedure, your protocols to hand, and also make sure that you know exactly what you want. So it's not a case of the doctors telling you how you're feeling. It's a case of you knowing how to deal with yourself and basically not waiting too late. Not waiting to, let's say your sickle cell crisis could be like a level 4 or 5. Not waiting till it's about 20. You get me?
Yeah.
Making sure you're able to go to hospital, because most sickle cell patients don't realize that the harder the damage, the longer it takes for you to recover.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get me? So as soon as you go in hospital, if it's moderate pain, get in, let them treat you, come out. So I'll say just make sure you know the level of pain and get there as soon as you can. Don't let anything linger at all.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Rabi?
Well, my own part, have money first.
Okay.
You need to have money, yeah. You need to have money from registration as a patient to everything, right? And then you also just know your allergies and make sure you demand to know whatever drugs they're giving you.
Yeah.
Because that is where sometimes they start arguing with you. Why do you need to know what injection? That's how arrogant they are. Why do you need to know? The doctor wrote it, the doctor prescribed it, so I'm just here to administer it. Why do you need to know? That's how terrible they are.
Really?
So,
They're that bad in Nigeria?
Yeah. Yes, that's how nurses are. That's how sometimes, and I told you, they don't like you challenging or demanding to know what is a common thing here. So just know your allergies to prevent complications and have money. And then seek advice from fellow warriors when you come. Where can I go? What is the best hospital? If you know a group you can contact, and the person, a warrior, can lead you to the best place to get medical care. That's it. We have HMOs in some hospitals, so if you have, like me, if you're coming to my side and you can contact me, yes, I can give you best advice on the best hospitals or how to go about it, or even go with you to hospitals and all that. Sometimes they need people like us to even challenge them, like, okay, I run a sickle cell NGO. Are you ready to give this person the care she needs, or you want us to go to the media? That's how bad it gets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, because I had a terrible experience. The first time I came to Abuja, I had a crisis and my mom took me to the hospital. We just went into a random hospital and we demanded to see a doctor. And I was shivering, I was in pains, and imagine that. And no nurse wanted to listen to me until I see a doctor. Fine. My mother said, okay, go ahead. Where is the consultant room? We went, she waited. She said, okay, you just go and wait to see the doctor while I do the registration. She's in pain. Let her see the doctor. I'll fill in the forms for her and I'll pay whatever it is. So they agreed. And then they took me to a doctor's room who was actually sitting there doing nothing. So he was on his phone. He was chatting maybe to his friend or his girlfriend, whatever. But he had this smile. Was blushing, he was chatting on the phone, and I sat down there for about 10 minutes and he didn't even look at me. And I was so sick and weak that I was just, I just had tears in my eyes. I had no strength to talk to him and all that. And my mother finished registration and came to the room, and she saw that he had not even attended to me. He was still on his phone. So she tapped me, and when he saw her walk in, then he was like, okay, what can I do for you? And he dropped the phone right there. So my mother told him that we don't need your help anymore. Right. She now told me that, stand up, let's go. So she drove in a hurry, took me to another hospital where I was attended to, gave me my pain meds and everything. Then went back to go and meet him, and then she told him off. And then when I was much better, I went straight to the print media, and I reported the hospital, and then it was printed in the papers, and I brought it to him. I called the CMD. I demanded to see the CMD. And then you don't get to see the chief medical director because they behave like gods in their hospitals, right? You don't even have access to them. So, but then I went and demanded to see him and the doctor. And I told him that next time I'm going to write his name in the paper. This is just general, this hospital I go. Next time I'm going to write his name and his full name, and then he was sober. That was how I got respect in the hospital. That's what happened. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good things about that is make sure you're known in your hospital, basically. So, whether it be as a patient, whether it be through work that you do with the hospital and advocacy, but make sure that you're known, because I know for a fact that whenever I go to my hospital, they know me basically based on the fact that I run a charitable organization.
Yeah.
So anything that happens, they need to treat me with certain respect, but also needs to be a case where it's not just they treating me, they need to treat other patients as well. Exactly. So sometimes before the pandemic happened, as whenever a patient was affected by sickle cell, I used to go in to ensure that patients were being treated fairly. So it's a case, if we can, make sure that, we look for ourselves and we also look for other sickle cell patients in general. But that only starts from when you become familiar with your hospital, make sure that you're known. And I think that's one thing that sickle cell patients do often enough, make sure that they know you, they know what you're about, and they know that you have very strong opinions when it comes to your care and other care of sickle cell patients.
Yeah, awesome. So before we leave, I want to definitely thank you guys for coming on, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the events that you have coming up on Saturday, June 19th. Kenny, I know you have a blood drive that's coming up.
Yes, I'm going to Manchester. So I'm going from London to Manchester, where we have a blood drive. So we're just basically going to try and get more black blood donors to give blood to treat sickle cell patients in the UK, so needing blood transfusions. And so I will say, for those in America, okay, let's be the change that we need. If you can give blood, please give blood, because at the moment in time in the UK, it's only 1% of donors are black. I don't know what the percentage in America. We'll say that your gift of blood can save a life. And we also say that your one blood donation can save up to 6 individual lives. So that's the impact of your gift of blood. So if you're really interested, please contact Sickle Cell 365 and make sure, please give blood as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And Rabi, you are having an event as well. We have a flyer for your event. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, this is like a sequel to what we did last year. Last year we showcased warriors with talents, right? And we just went, we did like a photo frame for all the warriors we have that have one talent or the other, or are into one profession or the other. So we just wanted to show the world that we're not all about just being sick. We can do anything, and we're brilliant people, we're smart people. And so this time around, we're going to have like a skill acquisition for people that are not professionals, for warriors that want to be empowered. So we're going to have like a seminar as a flag off for what we're doing in September. For the Sickle Cell Awareness Month in September, we're going to be training the warriors and empowering them, giving them the basic ideas of business, and so that they can pick whatever they can, to make them comfortable, to make them less dependent on people for their medication and all. Because over 70% of sickle cell warriors in Nigeria are less fortunate, and it's a big deal. Some are abandoned by their families because they have the no drugs, no money for drugs, proper diet, hospital care. So it becomes very overwhelming for the families, and some abandoned by their family and friends, and they keep begging for money. Some are even on the streets, begging and all that. So we're trying to teach them how to be less dependent, right? You can get your any kind of skills. You can do bead making, you can make, bake at home, be a hairdresser, do IT, can train you on IT and all that. So that's what we're doing, just to empower them and encourage them to be less dependent. So this is a flag off for Saturday, again September, where we'll have the full skill acquisition programs.
I think that's absolutely
Sounds
awesome.
great.
And
Yeah.
one last flyer we have of the World Sickle Cell Day Marathon that's hosted by the next one, the Sickle Cell Community Consortium and the Cayenne Wellness. This is the Rabi's Foundation flyer right here. And then we have the Genotype Jamboree. It's a 24-hour marathon. You can catch me live at 3 doing spoken word, but it's a full day of music, entertainment, prizes, just all type of fun and awareness and advocacy. So I really, really enjoyed speaking with both of you, Rabi and Kenny. I was very enlightened and learned that there's a lot of similarities here and there.
Yeah,
So,
we definitely have to have you guys come back another time and
Yeah.
tell us more about what you're doing.
absolutely.
No doubt.
And
Oh, love. Yeah.
we want to thank our sponsors, Mr. Dan Moore with the Apex Museum here in downtown Atlanta. Check him out as they are open. We also want to thank Miss Tanya Robinson with Kids Stop Daycare and Learning Center and the Black Professional Network. All right. So anything
And
else?
thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you for having.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you so much, and we'll be in contact with you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.